Welcome to the Fab Female Nutrition Podcast, episode 152. Hey there, I'm your host Wendy Hill, and I'm a nutritional therapist and expert in female hormone health. I specialise in helping women gain confidence and understanding their bodies, allowing them to shine. This podcast allows me to share the knowledge I've built up, along with bringing you guest experts to support you in your journey. Hey guys, how are you doing? Welcome to this week's podcast episode. So this week's a solo, and this week's title is How to Thrive, Not Just Survive. And the reason I have decided to record this one is because I found recently, so we've been through, a real turmoil of a few years, and I'm hearing a lot from people when you go, oh, how you doing? They're like, yeah, I'm surviving. Yeah, I'm doing all right, surviving, And it's like, yeah, I do know. Of course I know. But actually, can we thrive? It's really difficult, I think, when we are in survival mode to get out of it so that we are thriving, so that we are enjoying. If you're surviving, you're just kind of taking one day at a time, 1 minute at a time. It can be so difficult and so challenging. And the more you're in survival mode, the less you are able to kind of put that time in for self-care and thriving. So I'm going to share some tips with you, but let's talk about what the survival mode is. And I want you to really, when I'm going through this, I've got a few things I'm going to explain to you what's happening in your body. And I want you to really, perhaps if you can, stop or, be really, really think, really connect with what I'm saying to you. And is this you? And if it is you, then you really need to listen to my tips. So, survival mode, your chest gets tight, your breathing is shallow. This is when you're in this fight or flight survival mode. Now, in your body, it's the HPA axis that activates our stress response. The HPA axis, I'm going to explain this a little bit because I think nutritionists and, kind of us medical people kind of talk about HPA axis and we think you all know what it is and you don't. So it's the hypothalamus, the pituitary and the adrenal glands. And they are in a kind of they work synergistically together. And they really respond to stress. They regulate lots of body's functions as well, but they are activated by our sympathetic nervous system. This is our fight or flight, our stress, what we call our stress nervous system. And this, in modern life, I think we call it fight or flight, but I think stress is a better way of describing it. And, you're juggling family life, being a boss at work, getting stuff done, having an awesome social life. This creates this big fat turmoil of stress, and it can be so challenging. We put in so much kind of pressure on ourselves to be amazing at all these things that we end up feeling overwhelmed often. And this is really when we are starting to put our body under pressure, and it can start to feel debilitating. It can really start to feel like you can't make good decisions. And this is where these hormonal imbalances occur. So we have over 50 hormones in our body. So don't just, when I say hormones, don't just think about estrogen and progesterone. It's not just the sex hormones. We have over 50 hormones. And so hormones kind of help us do things, basically, if you think of us doing stuff. And if we are constantly under this kind of stress response, a cortisol response, then it starts to become tiring. So we talk about the fight or flight modes, but there's another one. So there's fight or flight. So this is when you fight or you run. You fight or flight. So that was traditionally for getting away from animals, from danger. We also have our freeze. And this again is the same part of the same reaction. And this is when you feel unable to make a decision. And I hear this so often from clients, is you're just so overwhelmed, you can't make a decision. Do you want a cup of tea or coffee? You're like, or I've got some herbal teas. Would you like lemon? You go, yes. Or ginger. Oh, yes. And before you know it, you've had 5 different choices and you don't know what to do. This is part of your stress response. It's that freeze, inability to make a decision. And then we have the Fawn one, which you might not have heard about before, but I think this is really important to talk about. And this is when you go into people pleasing mode. Sound familiar? These are all survival mechanisms. Think about it as we were in a tribe. So if you are in fawn mode and in people pleasing mode and people like you, they are going to protect you, aren't you? It's a survival mechanism. All of these ones are survival mechanisms. They're our most basic of reactions. When we are in kind of the stress response, what happens in our bodies when we're in that survive mode is we have enhanced blood flow to the brain, makes us think, gives us quick reactions, okay? But it also reduces the blood flow to the gut as a reaction to this. We have enhanced vision. The blood flow we can run faster, we can make decisions faster. And this is all survival mode, designed to be fairly short-lived, not to be lived in constantly, which is really what's happening with us. Lots of people are in a very low level stress response consistently. So I have 5 tips for you, and these are I'm going to come to food separately. These are my 5 toolbox tips. Now, they don't come by accident, guys. You don't suddenly go, well, yeah, I know what the survival mode tips are. I'm going to be thriving from now. These are my 5 to thrive, but they take a bit of work. The first thing you need to do is recognize the signs if you are getting into that survival mode, if you are getting into that constant state of low level stress and just surviving, then first thing is to recognize it. Then what I would say is take these 5, create your own little toolbox. So some of them you need to do all of the time. And then maybe some of them you pull out when you need them. When you feel yourself going into that survival mode, you're like, oh, hold on a minute. Let's bring out some of my 5 to thrive and see how you manage with those. So first one is, I want you to pause more often. Now, this is something that I often add into my one-to-one clients for movement. So my clients on a weekly basis check in with me, and there's different things that we look at: how much sleep they're getting, water, colourful vegetables, all these of things. And one of the things that you monitor is movement. And I will often put pause as their movement. 20 minutes pausing, and they get a bit scared and like, whoa, hold on a minute, you said movement, that's not movement. I'm like, yeah, exactly, because your problem is you're moving too much. You are constantly on the go. When was the last time you spent 10 minutes reading a book or just having a cup of tea and a chill out without doing 6 or 7 other things at the same time? And they can't remember. So just making sure that you have that little pause, maybe taking your cup of tea, putting your phone down away, and just sitting and listening to the birds, but actually taking time to pause is really, really powerful in activating that parasympathetic nervous system. Second is breathe. Okay. Now, I know you're all breathing, but if you're breathing these short, shallow breaths from the chest, that's not really breathing. The best way to activate our vagus nerve, which is our parasympathetic, part of our parasympathetic nervous system, is to breathe deeply, proper belly breathing. If you can, breathe in deeply, hold it for a little bit, and then breathe out really gently and just hold it just for a little millisecond, just pause. And it's the best way to calm. My third is essential oils. Now, this is something that I do an awful lot. I'm a huge fan of doTERRA essential oils, but there's also, and my other favorites are Neal's Yard and Neem, but I'm a doTERRA advocate, so I love the doTERRA oils. And I constantly have my diffuser on. I diffuse different oils in the bedroom, different oils in the office, depending on how I want to feel. If I need to get some work done, then I'll diffuse something like Motivate to get me going. If I want a little bit of calm. I might do whisper, which is like the female hormone. It's like the whisperer. And they're all different. At nighttime, I have peace in the bedroom. So there are different oils that activate different parts of our kind of brain and nervous system. And there's been lots of research on these, and they are, truly amazing. Work on children as well. So you've got stressy kids, put a nice calming piece on, calm them down. Number 4 is prioritize sleep. Now, please don't tell me, okay, I am sick to death of hearing, this is me telling you off now, I'm sick to death of hearing from parents, I sympathize, guys, but saying, well, I need a few hours after the kids have gone to bed for me, but then you wake up exhausted and you then say to me, oh, but I'm always snapping at the kids because I'm so knackered. Well, go to bloody bed. You don't need a couple of hours after the kids have gone to bed to stay up, to watch telly, to do your social media, to feel like pants in the morning. Actually, you need to prioritize your sleep. You need to have some calm. You are much happier, much nicer person. We all are when we've had proper restorative sleep. Now, I understand when you have children that are going to wake you up in the middle of the night, you can't control that, but you can control what time you go to bed and how you go to bed. Create a nice nighttime routine. Try and go to bed at the same time and try to get up at the same time. You do it with children. You say to me, oh, well, the kids have been a nightmare today because we let them stay up late last night. Well, what do you think happens to you when you allow yourself to stay up late last night? If you think about it, you are just a big baby when it comes to sleep, and prioritizing sleep will really help you be healthy in old age. And my number 5 is move regularly. Now, notice I don't say exercise, and I am aware of the fact that I've told you to pause and move in both of my 5s. But the point here is I want you to move gently. Okay, I want you to walk, really. Yoga is wonderful as well. I want you to go outside in the morning if you can. This activates cortisol, which was our bad hormone, you might remember. But remember, life is all about balance. And the point of cortisol is it should be high in the morning and it should be low before we go to bed. So when you're stressed, you get high cortisol in the evening, which is not good. But if you're calmer because you've been doing your pausing and your breathing and your essential oils and you've had a really good night's sleep, getting up in the morning and going outside, getting some daylight will activate that cortisol, which will help you get motivated for the day. And movement will help with everything. It helps with blood flow. It helps removal of toxins. It helps with our gut health. It's just so restorative. So if you can move and if you can go for a walk in the mornings, around the woods would be amazing. If you've got a green near you, get some proper green before your screen time. All of these things will really help you activate that parasympathetic nervous system, help you thrive and not with just survive. I really want you to encourage you to have some, if not all of these 5 in your life every day. So that's it from me for this week. I'm hoping that, I've given you a little bit of insight about why and how your body reacts, and then how to calm it down a bit, and give you some toolbox tips. If there's something that you do that I haven't mentioned, let me know. I'd love to know. I'm always kind of keen to find out more. Next week, I've got an interview for you, but that is it from me for this week. So thank you for listening and see you next week. Thank you for watching this excerpt of this week's Fab Female Nutrition podcast. If you'd like to listen to the full episode, then the link is in the notes below.